Hello everyone, once again 5-Minute BI, Klaus Jürgen Folz, another master from Brazil, here tonight with us. Thank you, Klaus, and thank you for accepting my invitation and joining us here tonight on 5-Minute BI. How are you doing, Klaus?
Hi, thank you very much for having me, actually. I'm doing super fine, and I'm super happy to be here also.
And it's my pleasure and my honor indeed to have you here, and you're joining us today. And I see your cat is moving in the background. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll have one.
What's his name?
His name is Obelix. No.
Obelix.
He's a big boy, big cat.
It's big. It's not a cat, it's a tiger. You know,
Tiger, like we say here in Austria.
Okay, I don't bother you anymore, and I want to be all ears to hear what Klaus Jürgen Folz had bring us tonight. All scene is yours, Klaus. Go on.
Thank you. Just to present myself quickly, I'm Klaus. I'm from Brazil, and I live now in Austria, and I am a lead Power BI developer at Brunner BI for the past 3 years. And I've been developing my most notable project is Measure Killer, where I'm the lead developer together with Gregor Brunner and Pedro Smiderle, also from Brazil. So it's been it's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you, Matt. And I'm talking today about how to optimize DAX measures and columns using the performance analyzer, the built-in tool in Power BI, and DAX Studio, the external tool. I have a report example. It's quite a big report, 900 megabytes, as you can see, almost 1 gigabyte, and it's a very simple report. We have IMDb data for those who do not know. IMDb is the Internet Movie Database. It has a lot of.
It's well known in Iran. You know, all the people know the IMDb site.
I use it all the time, especially before going to the movie theater. So we have a couple of measures here, but I want to highlight this movies rating above 7. It's quite a simple measure. And it's basically taking the director and calculating how many movies this director has above average rating of 7 on IMDb. If you take a look here, I will see, let me think, it's this measure. I'm basically doing a distinct count. This is the ID of the movie.
Can you enlarge the DAX code, please?
Absolutely. I'm sorry because my screen is a little big, so let me just zoom in.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, my pleasure. So I'm basically doing a distinct count and then filtering the same table using the category director, and then I'm using this filter argument to basically get the movies that have an average rating above 7 and the number of votes are above 1,000. So, with that said, I can see that this measure is a little bit slow. So if I turn on the performance analyzer, and then I have to go to view and turn this guy on, I can see this little pane on the right side. And this pane on the right side will help me check how long does it take to refresh a visual. So what I did, I just click on this little marker here, analyzing this visual. I could also click on refresh visuals. And what do I see here on the right side? Let's take a look. So I have the table. That was the only visual that I refreshed. And if I expand this, I can see that I have a couple of information here. So the DAX query took
approximately 6 seconds.
Yes, 6,000 milliseconds. So it's quite slow. Usually at Brunner BI, we try to keep all of the refresh times of the visuals under 5 seconds. That is our go-to rule, I would say. Obviously, sometimes you can't do that because the DAX
the
is
threshold
so
is 5 minutes.
5 seconds. Yes, 5 seconds. Because if it takes more than 5 seconds, it's kind of annoying for the user. It's not a very good user experience. It takes long to refresh. You select something on a slicer, it can be annoying a little bit. Yeah. So we try to every time we try to keep it under 5 seconds. So now with this DAX query, I can copy the query. And let's go now to DAX Studio. I have it open already and it's already connected. So what I'm about to do now, I'm just going to paste the DAX query. And we can already see that it's a little bit more complicated than the measure itself, but we can easily identify the important sections of the code, which is the summarize columns here.
Yeah.
We can see that the measure, and here we have a top-end filter, and then a sort by. So this is not really important. The important part is this guy right here. And let's now run this query. But first, I want to clear the cache on run. This is a best practice because it can lead to
misunderstanding. We
wrong
may have
timings.
Some data on cache. Yeah.
Exactly, and it will be faster than it would actually be when you're trying to evaluate the measure. So it's always good to, when you're doing this optimization, this DAX optimization, is good to keep this always on. Another thing that I want to highlight is that you have to turn this guy on right here. So the server timings and also the query plan if you want, but this is more complex and a very detailed explanation of what is going on behind the scenes in the query, all the steps, quite complicated. Only in extreme cases you're going to have to use it. So with those two options on, clear on run and server timings, I'm gonna now go and run this query. Let's run and see what happens. So we can see that the query started here on below, down below.
We can
the
see
cache,
that.
Exactly. And now the query is finished. And now also I can see that we have a little tab here that is called server timings. Yes. And down here we have some very useful information. Firstly, the total. So this query took around 10 seconds to finish. This is the sum of the formula engine and the store engine. This is a rather complex topic that I'm not going to go into detail now because of time, but they're basically, they complement each other. There are parts.
They are part of Vertipaq engine.
Exactly. Yeah. And here, very importantly also, the store engine queries. And this is basically how many times the query is scanned the storage engine using Vertipaq. But now let's go back to our measure here, and let's try to optimize this measure. So the first thing I have to do, I'm going to define this measure so I can change it and evaluate the new timings, which is super simple. So let me zoom here. So I'm going to search the name of the measure. I can see there's only one measure with that name, and I'm going to right click and then define measure. And I can see here I have my DAX code that I saw in Power BI Desktop. And what I will do next, I will try to change this code. And obviously I did some of this. I wrote this measure, so it's kind of written on purpose to be slow. Usually, and I saw this on a video from Guy in a Cube, if I'm not mistaken, Phil C-Mark usually uses another option instead of distinct count, because this distinct count can be a little problematic in terms of performance. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to change this code. And remembering that we had almost 10 seconds before. So instead of distinct count, I'm going to do a sum x. Actually, I should have kept that guy because I don't remember what the column name is, but let me do a sum x. And now we're going to write down the values function, which will return unique values for this column. And for the expression of the sum x, we use 1. So that is, So that is exactly the same thing as the distinct count. And it's faster.
More performant.
Yes, distinct count, I try to avoid it all the time. It can be a problem. Usually it is a problem. Another thing that I can see here is this filter. And this filter is usually a bad practice to add a filter because you're filtering a table. So instead of using a filter, you can use another function that will do exactly the same, but will be way better in terms of performance. And that is the keep filters.
Keep filters, bravo.
Yes. So the keep filters
adds these filters to the filter context.
Exactly. And I will remove the ratings. And that's it. Now I'm defining this measure right here. And I will evaluate this measure inside this variable that is basically a representation of the table that I had in my Power BI report. And let's see the results. Let's take a look. Let's run. And now we are down to 98
surprisingly
milliseconds.
The time.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And
oh my God.
This is like, it's very simple.
98 milliseconds.
Yes, nothing basically. It is nothing.
Oh, nothing.
Yeah. And now I can basically copy the code that I just wrote, go back to my Power BI and just replace this guy here.
And change your measure.
Yes. Oops. There's a bracket. There. And now let's evaluate this guy. Let's clear. And I'm going to evaluate this. 94 seconds, 97 seconds, 100 seconds. It's nothing compared. Obviously, DAX is a very complex
language. Compared to 10 seconds. Yeah. Yes. It was amazing for me, this session. It was, it wasn't amazing for you. It was amazing for me. I learned a lot in these minutes from you.
And it's a very common mistake, right? Like you have a distinct count and a filter. It's a super simple
all the time I use them with each other.
Exactly.
All the time. It was great, Klaus, and I want you to promise me that we can have you and you join us again on 5-Minute BI for further tips and tricks. It was great, for myself in these previous sessions with all these masters. Your session was something else, I was level up with an elevator, not the stairs. It took me so much.
Really glad to hear that.
Thank you, Klaus. It was great. It was awesome to have you here. I really appreciate that you have joined us here tonight on 5-Minute BI.
Thank you very much.
I hope we can have you in future.